Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to take a look at, in a very broad kind of way, the French Revolution. This lecture is really designed for maybe a world history course, maybe a sophomore level high school student, an introductory course to that type of world history or European history. Definitely not going to go into a lot of details and a lot of vocabulary. We're going to keep it tight. So multiple choice, thematic essay, we're going to try to give you enough. So I hope that your attention is geared and I hope that you're ready to go as we start by looking at 5 causes of the French Revolution. The first cause is absolute monarchy or absolute monarchism. And an absolute monarchy is basically what it sounds like. A monarch is a king, right? King-queen system. And basically they rule the day. Their word is final and there's really nothing else up for discussion. So France in 1789 was run under an absolute monarchy. Queen Marie Antoinette, King Louis XVI ruled the day. So you have very little connection between the people and their government. Right? This is kind of the opposite of social contract. We'll go into that in a moment. But kind of in the States, in the United States, and in most of the world today, we accept that there's a social contract between the people and their government. That there is, in a sense, I do chicken and egg concept in my U.S. course, but basically the idea is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And the answer is always the chicken, because you are the chickens, my friends. Can you say bok bok? The egg, therefore, becomes the government. And I don't know if you know a lot about bird biology, but I think that chickens need to have rooster sex in order to create eggs. That would be them kind of voting, consent of the governed, a social contract, right, that creates that government, right? So in France, in a monarchy system, right, it's the other way around. The egg has birthed the chicken. Right? The egg came first, and the chickens have nothing to say about what their government looks like. So, absolute monarchism. That would be uno. Reason number 1 for the French Revolution. Number two is the estate system. We can kind of classify this, maybe with a thematic, sentence, under social inequality. Right? You've seen this in other parts of your course. Maybe it's the caste system, right? Or maybe it's the feudal system, which is really what this is about, the feudal system. And in France, people were broken up into 3 estates. The first estate, which comprised, I think, 0.05 of the population, was basically the clergy, the church, the Catholic Church, the religious folks, the people that were way up on top. Amen. The second estate were the nobles. These are basically, the landowners, the people with some momo, with some money, with power, and finally, everybody else. The third estate system was made up, and by the way, the second estate is 1.5% of the population, which leads, drumroll, 98% of the people in the third estate system. Right? And this would be not only the very, very poor, like the peasants and, the serfs and the working and all that, but also what we call the bourgeoisie. That's from the Russian Revolution. But the bourgeoisie is basically like the middle class, the merchants and the artisans and the producers and the small business people. And so everybody's lumped into that third estate system. So that's social inequality. And of course, the privileges go to the first 2 estates, and people in the third estate really have very few rights. And we'll talk about maybe taxes in the next part. But number 1 for the French Revolution, you have the absolute monarch, King Louis XVI. Reason number 2, you have social inequality. And again, look at the vocab. It's the estate system. You want vocab? You want words that are going to be on the test? I got $5 that's going to be on the test. I'm not going to pay you if I lose. 3 estates. Estate 1, clergy. Estate 2, nobles, right? Rich. Estate 3, not only the peasants and the serfs and the poor people, but the middle class. And here's the word, ready? Bourgeoisie for the French Revolution. All right. Reason number 3 for the French Revolution. We're looking at causes, folks. And the next one would be economic injustice, right? you're going to love this one. The way the estate system was set up, right? Let's look at America first, right? What determines the percent of taxes you pay? And in the United States, we have a progressive tax system, which means the more money you make, the more you can afford to pay. What happens to that percent of tax you pay? That's the 16th Amendment in the United States. It goes up. So if you're, a multi-gillionaire, you're paying 33%, something like that. And if you po-po, you might pay no taxes, or 5 or 10%. So that we see as kind of economic, I don't want to say justice, but that, we're comfortable with that system in order to pay for their programs. But before the French Revolution, the first and the second estate, this is how much they pay in taxes. Can you see me? They don't pay taxes. Who pays all the taxes? That's right. The serfs and the peasants and the bourgeoisie. So, that was like that for a long time, since the Middle Ages. The reason why it's a cause of the French Revolution is because in the 1780s, there was a humongous kind of food shortage problem. There was, I'm not sure if it was weather or just depression. Well, we could just say food shortages, but people are clamoring for bread. And there's also, there's a lot of tax burden because the French government is spending a lot of money. They're going to war all the time. They're kind of wasting the people's money. So as soon as they have a deficit and they have run out of money, who are they going to tax? Yeah, that's right, the popo. And, so now you're starving and the king comes and he's like, grease my palm, bro. So the third reason is economic inequality. And you're looking at that third estate, right, paying all of the taxes, so the first and the second estate can live high on the hog. Oink, oink. Right? So that would be reason number 3 for, what is it? The French Revolution. I like to say revolution. Okay, reason number 4, and you could do a whole lecture on this, but is the Enlightenment, right? I always see the Enlightenment in my mind, kind of 1600s Europe, as we're living in the Dark Ages. And the Enlightenment is really like the invention of the flashlight, where now you, the people, can kind of look around and figure out for yourself, logic and reason and what you're going to believe in. And it's not just the Pope telling you what to believe in. But during the Enlightenment era in the 16 and 1700s, you had a lot of philosophers that wrote their ideas down that are going to influence the French Revolution. So I'll just give you a few names. John Locke is one of them. Social contract and natural rights. That you are born with natural rights. You are born a free man or a free woman. But what does the government do in France as soon as you're born? They take away your rights. And now we have the French Revolution. So like Locke would be an important concept with natural rights. Montesquieu is a name I've seen before on the test. Checks and balances, that government needs to be checked by the people and other branches of government. You have Rousseau, which is kind of the Bill of Rights, that government should protect people's rights. Those are like the 3 big names that pop in my head right away. But definitely the bigger answer is the Enlightenment leads to the French Revolution. And there's other things involved in there. I mean, you have, Gutenberg's printing press way back, and that allows for the ideas to be transferable to, poor people, or to people maybe not poor, bourgeoisie people, so their ideas can spread. So you kind of have this, vacuum of ideas that are rolling around on the bottom, and you're combining those other factors of, the social and economic equality, the monarchy, and now those Enlightenment ideas are going to kind of sweep people, away. I don't want to go into another reason before I have to, but I want to say American Revolution, but I'm going to wait, and I might just say that again in a second. So, just to briefly summarize, we have one more reason. I'm actually kind of cheat a little bit. Okay. So, your 4 reasons we've done so far would be the absolute monarchy idea, kind of the social inequality idea with the estate system. You have that economic inequality, kind of the tax idea, and the estates, being supported by the third estate. And now you have the Enlightenment idea. So let me go get the 5th reason, and I'll be right back. And then we can we can do it, right, my friends? We can do what? The French Revolution. Reason number 5. Reason number 5 is other revolutions. Previous to the French Revolution, the 1600s, you have the Glorious Revolution and the kind of the ideas of the Magna Carta and the Parliament in England. But even a better example, and the one that I would use, is just pull it out of the bag. It's the American Revolution. We're only talking about 12, 13 years, right? 1776 is the American Revolution. 1789 is the French Revolution. So the ideas of the American Revolution absolutely influence that third estate system, right? So, Declaration of Independence, right? I call it the Dear John, you suck letter. But basically, the colonists saying to their ruler, the English government, that, you are not our government through representation. There's no social contract. John Locke, no natural rights that are being really enshrined and being protected for us. The idea of Montesquieu and Rousseau and Locke and all these Enlightenment ideas are really built into the American Revolution. So if you were ever scared that we can't do it, my French friends, if you were ever worried that you can't overthrow the king, oh my God, you could never do that, not in a million years. Well, if you look at the American Revolution, a bunch of ragtag colonists that were really being led by very rich people like Hamilton and Washington and those guys. Nevertheless, what did? They overthrew the most powerful, army in the world, pretty much, the British. So this is going to give the French, the gusto, right? To go do it. To do what? The French? I love it. The French Revolution. So there, let's really quick, I'm almost walking off. 5 reasons, right? Number 1, absolute monarchism. Number 2, right? We have social inequality with the estate system. Number 3, economic inequality with the tax system. Number 4, the light has gone on, the Enlightenment ideas. And finally, the example of the British, but more importantly, the American Revolution. And now we're ready to go do the French Revolution.
The 3 stages of the French Revolution.
So, the French Revolution is basically a few stages. It's not really like the American Revolution. The American Revolution, I would consider more of a top-down revolution, where the people that already had power in America convinced the people on the bottom of the scale that this was the time. I think it's the other way around in the French Revolution. And in 1789, King Louis XVI really felt the pressure. So he called a grand meeting, it's called the Estates General, where all 3 estates were going to come together and they were going to solve these problems. But the real problem is nothing can be done without the agreement of 2 estates. And of course, the top 2 estates are never going to do anything for that third estate. So the third estate kind of just said, we're going to be independent. We're going to be the National Assembly.
And this is called the 10th Court Oath.
We're the only ones elected by the people, so therefore we are the representatives of the people. So they just kind of did that, and they said they were going to do it. Because of that, the people got all riled up when the king wouldn't give up power. They stormed a prison to, I think, free debtors, and just to kind of show their power. They stormed the Bastille. And basically, that's the first stage of the revolution. The king tried to do something. He didn't do anything with the Estates General meeting. Then the third estate declares themselves, the National Assembly, the rulers, and the people rise up. They storm the Bastille, and we're ready for stage 2. So let's go do that. So the second phase is called the Great Fear. And the Great Fear is really kind of like retribution, where the peasants and the poor people who really couldn't even afford bread at that point really rose up, and they were attacking nobles and burning down castles and, really kind of creating that fear in the upper class. Meanwhile, the National Assembly is doing things to create a limited monarchy government. One thing they did was they passed the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. And basically it looks a lot like kind of like our Bill of Rights, where you would say like freedom of speech and freedom of religion and kind of those basic human rights or natural rights that we see from John Locke and the Declaration of Independence through Thomas Jefferson. But basically what occurred is that government wasn't really effective. You had a lot of chaos going on. And as the revolution, the idea of the revolution got out of France, other European governments were kind of like, yeah, because they don't want to be next, They want to support the king. They didn't love, the French king, but they loved the absolute idea of absolute what? monarchism. So they start kind of getting ramped up like they're going to come save the French king. And basically the National Assembly goes to war with Europe. I think they attack Prussia or Germany and the British. And, they're going to go out bringing that revolution in their minds to the rest of Europe. They see this as a fire that's going to sweep across Europe, taking down kings and queens all over and creating what they see as this kind of utopian democratic society. So that's stage two. Stage two is called the Great Fear. But out of that, we do get the declarations of man and citizen. We do get a limited monarchy. We do get more social equality. But we also get a lot of houses being burned down. Stage three is the reign of terror. So in 1792, now that we're going to war with Europe, radicals take control of the National Assembly. They're elected in. Radicals like Maximil Robespierre, and I'm probably saying he's butchering his name up, but this guy is kind of the opposite of the king. Where the king will kill you because he's got power and you got none. Now the guy that didn't have any power's got power, and now what's he going to do? Off with your head. Thousands of French people had the guillotine slice their necks off, right? Slice their heads off, including Marie Antoinette and King Louis the 16th, as well as thousands and hundreds of nobles and landowners and clergy, all kinds of people. And that really is the reign of terror, right? This isn't the democracy that most people were hoping for. But nevertheless, what occurs is eventually Robespierre himself becomes the victim of his own reign of terror. And that's stage three, really the most radical stage of the French Revolution. Off with your head. So stage four, we're going to have the moderates return now. So let me go find a moderate, someone who's not just completely a radical. He's right there. Come here, man. Get over here. So stage four is moderation, and this is basically like 1795, 1794, 1799. And basically the moderates came in kind of promising to, get the job done, to stop the riots and to lower the price of bread and to do the basic things that people want. Everybody loves freedom until you're hungry. And now it becomes kind of like that chant we see in Russia in 1917, land, peace, and bread. What did the radicals bring France? They didn't bring the people bread, they didn't give them more property really, and they certainly didn't give them peace in this kind of European war that ends up not being a winner. So you have a very weak, ineffectual government by 1799. This is the moderate government. So when you have a weak, ineffectual government and people are hungry and there's riots and all this stuff, all you need is someone to kind of step in and take over. And this is really important. This general in 1799, kind of out of nowhere, is going to come out of the blue. Napoleon, the Coup D'etat in 1799. And in 1799, Coup D'etat, he uses his military friends, his generals, to overthrow the government. And soon enough, he's going to declare himself the emperor, right? The emperor of France. So let's just run through Napoleon really quick, and then we're going to wish you a good day, and you're going to get some questions right on what? The French Revolution. Napoleon. So here's Napoleon, just in a nutshell. We might have to do another lecture on Napoleon, but I've seen on the test, Napoleon always gets a few positives and then kind of the negatives. Excuse me, Napoleon passed something called the Napoleonic Code. And this is generally seen as a good thing from the French perspective. One thing he did was, right away, he basically gave people their rights. He said freedom of religion and freedom of speech, and you can live the life that you want to live, and, that's all good. So he understood those ideals from the French Revolution. The ideas of human rights were really important to the people. He also created a public school system. And education was always for the elite, for the first two estates. So to give the people free public education is going to give him a lot of power. People are going to trust Napoleon. And last but not least, he really invested most of the money in France into France itself. Transportation systems, canals, new roads, these types of things, right? These are basic needs that people have. So now that we can afford bread and, kids are going to school and I can pray the way I want and, Napoleon's the man. But Napoleon is also, really ambitious. He really wants not just to be the emperor of France, but the emperor probably of the world. And he's really successful that early on. And, the early 1800s, he took on basically all of Europe and beat them. The Germans, the Prussians and, the Spanish, everybody got beat by Napoleon. Except for two countries. He could never get to England, damn English Canal. So he couldn't get England, but more importantly, he tried to get Russia. And if you're ever an emperor, don't invade Russia. Very bad idea. It's really cold and really big. And what the Russians did under the Tsar was as they pulled back, as Napoleon was coming, they would just pull back and throw matches. And it's called slash and burn or burn and slash, something like that. Where basically scorch and burn, I think that's what it is, where you burn everything down. So when the French army would get there, there'd be nothing there, and they'd be hungry. And basically, just to end this really quick, Napoleon was deposed, I think 1804, 1805. He comes back really quick and tries to do it again, and he's defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. And that's the end of Napoleon. He was exiled, and we're not going to hear from the little guy that holds his hand in under his jacket like that anymore. So that's Napoleon. So really quick, let's just take a look at the effects of the French Revolution, and then you can go watch like a music video. All right, so we just want to look really quick at two big effects, because if you're writing a thematic essay, you're looking for big ideas, right? Two big effects. One would be the spread of ideals of democracy. Even though it ended badly, the French Revolution is the first revolution inside the mainland of Europe where other European countries who are kind of sitting on top of each other are watching, and that's going to influence them, right? I know we had kind of limited monarchy in England, but England's up across the English Channel, but France is surrounded by countries. So those ideas are going to spread quite quickly. And that's probably a positive thing. The other effect is the growth of nationalism. Before really Napoleon and the French Revolution, most people associated themselves with kind of their localities, like the cities that they came from. But with all the wars and Napoleon, countries come together and to fight off that attack, and that forms a sense of nationalism, that we're a nation rather than a city-state or a small town or a feudal serf kingdom or whatever. And that is, at the end of the day, going to lead to imperialism and other wars, World War I, and kind of clashes of nations. Nationalism. In class I do this as nationalism. It's kind of like a King Kong idea. So that's the French Revolution in 4 or 5 stages, looking at the big ideas. Definitely get your vocab, like the Reign of Terror and, the estate system and Coup D'etat and Napoleonic Code, because you're probably going to see that on the exam. But for now, this is Mr. HipHughes saying goodbye, good luck, and farewell. And hopefully we'll see you the next time you hit the little mouse button and you open up my video. All right, French Revolution is over!